So our topic for today is all about the important facts during the colonization of the Philippines. So first is the pre-colonial period. As a country infused with colonial practices for most of its recorded history, the Philippines' pre-colonial past can oftentimes be viewed with an air of mystery, along an era where beliefs and traditions are nothing but a distant, almost unimaginable memory.
What is the pre-colonial period? The pre-colonial period barely refers to the span of time prior to the introductions of European colonialisms in areas across the world. So what happened in pre-colonial period in Philippines? This island's periodical period during which indigenous people engaged in healthy trade with various cultures and economics in the regions.
So here are some facts about pre-colonial Philippines, mostly referenced from the book Kasaysayan, the Earliest Filipino. So first is Filipino women were on equal footing with men. In most aspects of life, pre-colonial women enjoyed the same rights, privileges, and opportunities as did men. The leadership's responsibilities held by a woman in a certain indigenous tribes are one of example of Filipino women being on equal footing with males in pre-colonial times. The Tagalog people of Luzon, in particular, have a legacy of powerful female leaders known as Babaylan. Babaylans were admired spiritual and cultural leaders who frequently served as priestesses and healers. They served critical roles in ensuring their community's social, spiritual, and physical being. These female leaders carried considerable power, advising on decision making and how to resolve conflicts. Babaylans were seen to be components between the physical and spiritual realms, and their advice was sought on a variety of issues, including rites, ceremonies, and disputes. Next is the earliest coin was made of gold. It is no surprise that most pre-colonial Filipinos had no knowledge of money, but instead were trading through gold. Coin specialists have also found the earliest Filipino coin, which was a small gold piece no longer than a pea, shaped like a rounded cone, with a character stamped in relief at the base, and it called piloncito. They called it such because the gold bits looked the same as the sugar receptacle called pylon. They were made by indigenous Filipino cultures utilizing complicated patterns and serve a variety of functions, such as trading items and adornments. These gold pieces were created works of art rather than standardized coinage.
A pleasant afternoon to each and everyone, especially to our teacher. Good afternoon, ma'am. I am Chil Gasado, and I'm the reporting of the Group 6. So we'll talk about pre-colonial inhabitants were already literate. In 1663, Spanish missionary Francisco Colin noted that the people cling fondly to their own methods of writing and reading. There is scarcely a man nor a woman who does not know and practice that the methods, even those who already Christian in matters of devotion. So, dili na nako siya tiwason og basa. It's because kung magpadayon ko sa akong pag-explain. Okay. So during the pre-colonial, people didn't have religion belief because before we were free. And we had everything in our hands, and we were free to do anything we wanted. We didn't have anything ruling over us the dictating as what we needed to be done. And before, we can tell easily how people live before. We weren't ashamed of our lifestyle, and we weren't secretive about it. We were only starting to become civilized people, and this can be shown in the materials that our ancestors used. The materials that were available before bamboo, nipa for the highlands, and coconut tree. As a substitute for the bamboo and nipas or rattan for the people living near the shores. In culture, we know that the Filipinos are known for who lives in bahay kubo. So, this time of the pre-colonial inhabitants is ang mga tao o ang different sa that time and sa karon is ang mga sa unang panahon is kung unsa lang ang naa sila is mauna okay na sa ilaha, but sa ato karon is daghan na kayong mga needed ang mga tao. So that's why, in terms of the pre-colonial period, Spaniards spread a Christianity as the technique in luring us and taking their influence take over our belief. This freedom. Nowadays, it can still be seen how much impact the Spanish made in our belief. That's why today in the Philippines it is become the main religion because of that the first structure which they built was the churches. Why? Because it started the community planning wherein the churches is the center of the houses surrounding. It's because the church before was considered the most powerful. Another is government before priests were used as a symbol for power wherein they are the ones who lead the people in the false religion and also use the people as their tools and taking advantage of their power. Other things Spaniards introduced were school because they want to educate the people and teach them the religion. So in terms of materials, it is also in this period were in store, were used in house. In other words, they are the ones who introduced stone masonry and still using some native materials in their structures. Just like a pre-colonial period, in this period, house consists of parts like living room, bedroom, foyer, dining room, and etc. Unlike before, during pre-colonial period, they just have one bed, one big space. Since 900 AD up to the present day, we still some of this concept and tradition in our daily life. Like in our structures today, we see some concepts of or influence that were used during pre-Spanish period. Like houses today, we still use cement consisted stone, wherein we know that the stones were used during pre-Spanish. We also influence or get the concepts that the parts of house that were used during pre-Spanish period, like having living room, bedroom, and foyer, dining room, and many more. So, my second report is all about the earliest form of the Philippines. The earliest form of the Philippine literature was the reader. In author and Professor Damiana ingenious easy riddles to tease and teach, she asserted that riddles were among the first and most common use of words like proverb, most of characterized by brevity with an facilitos, praising as the such are effective ways of transmitting folk wisdom and succeeding generation, she wrote. So this time the Philippine or tinatawag natin sa wikang Filipino bugtong is the local version of riddle, imagining and solving riddles are two of the most popular or pastimes between many early Filipinos who had a lot of on their hands or indicating our preference for mental activities. Its fame could be credited to its resemblance to Philippine culture. The readers of this archipelago are recognized to have two different distinct characteristics. One is that they are brief but packed with pictures. It easy to be that the Filipino riddles always are based on equipment and materials that are commonly seen or used. Some of other features of Filipino riddles in the presence of imaginative passages combining these two form into the implying that the Filipinos were already masters of literary works in the past, and as Filipino continue to produce high quality riddles worthy of note, the quality of literary works improves pro- proportionally proportional proportionally. So, for example, the reader's example.
Next is rice has always been the center of meals. If people were eating without rice, it was just considered a snack, not a meal. Rice was also used in weddings where couples would exchange balls of rice. Balls of rice is a slang or informal term for rice that has been molded or shaped into like a ball-like or squash shape. This could be done for a variety of reasons, including simpleness of eating, convenience, or specific culinary uses. It is not a culinary name but rather a descriptive term for rice that has been formed into a round or ball-like shape. The many words Filipinos use for rice, palay is unhusked, bigas is husked, kanin is cooked, also mirror the significance it had in their way of life. The last one is the ancient Filipinos celebrated a woman's first menstruation. The Buxer Codex, a Spanish manuscript detailing the lives of pre-Spanish Philippines, includes the details of how when a woman got her first menstruation. She underwent a ceremony known as dating, where she was blindfolded and secluded in a windowless space for 4 days. Once her menstrual period was over, she was led to a stream for a bath, but her were not allowed to touch the ground, so she was either carried or made to walk on an elevated pathway. When she returned home, oil would be put on her body, which was then followed by 2 nights of singing. During this time, only females were allowed to be around her. This ceremony also marked the woman as someone who can now be married.
A pleasant day to each and everyone. So, my report is all about colonial period of the Philippines. The Spanish colonial period in the Philippines to 1565 to 1898 was a period of Spanish rule in the Philippines, spanning from 1565 to 1898. The islands were part of the Spanish East Indies, and Spanish exploration began with the capital in 1571. During King Philip's reign, the period ended with the Philippine Revolution and Spanish-American War in 1898. Marking the beginning of American colonization, the Spanish expedition to the Spanish island was led by Juan Sebastian Vicano. In 1543, Spanish explorer Roy Lopez de Villalobos named the islands of Leyte and Samar, known as the Philippines in honor of Philip II of Spain. After his return to Spain, Philip ordered an expedition to the Spice Islands to establish an outpost in Asia and engage in the spice trade. However, colonialism in the Philippines has allowed in globalization. So, ang Philippines is nakikipagkasundo sila sa ibang lugar na makikipag-import ng mga product. Free trade and commercialization leading to has inflation rates and devaluation of the peso. The Philippines imports cheaper products from China, affecting local industries and markets. Filipinos still export human labor in exchange for dollar remittances, and extreme poverty forces them to work in foreign lands, serving the foreign masters who oppressed them. Before the Philippines was politically and economically controlled by Spain, and America during the Spanish and American colonial eras. Filipinos have been taught by the Americans that they belong to the lowest class of civilization, leading to a culture of beauty and desire to assume the Anglo-Saxon American skin color. This mentality has influenced Filipinos to patronize whitening products and use English as their native language. So yung mga American, is sila yung nagtuturo sa atin kung ano yung sila yung na-influensyahan tayo ng mga Amerikano na gamitin nila yung mga products natin, katulad ng mga whitening products and etc. Religion has also been a significant part of colonialism, with the Filipinos drawn to Christian doctrine in Islam. The colonial culture has conditioned Filipinos to believe that local products are inferior, leading to patronization of high yields. This colonial mentality has influenced Filipinos to consume American-made good imports, Hollywood movies, leading to a new era for them. So, yung Spanish is sila yung unang sumakop sa mga Pilipino ay sa Pilipinas. Dahil yung si Magellan ay siya yung unang nakapunta dito sa Pilipinas at nadiskubrihan yung Spice Island. At yung si Lapu-Lapu is noong 1521. Noong 1543 naman, dumating ang Espanyol na explorer na si Roy Lopez de Villalobos sa mga isla ng Leyte at Samar at pinangalanan silang Las Islas Filipinas bilang parangal kay Philip II ng Espanya noong panahon prinsipe ng Asturias. Naging hari ng Espanya si Philip noong Enero 16, 1556, nang ang kanyang ama ay si Charles I ng Espanya. Siya yung naghari din bilang Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor, ay nagbitiw sa trono ng Espanya. Nasa Brazil noong si Philip at ang kanyang pagbalik sa Espanya ay nantala hanggang 1559. Dahil sa politika at digmaan sa Europa, sa hilagang Europa, di nagtagal, pagkatapos ng kanyang pagbalik sa Espanya, nag-utos si Philip ng isang expedition sa Spice Island na nagsasaad na ang layunin nito ay tuklasin ang mga isa sa kanluran upang mag-set up ng isang outpost sa Asia at makisali sa kalakalan ng pampalasa. Sa kabilang banda, pinahihintulutan ng kolonyalismo sa Pilipinas ang paglalakbay ng globalization, malayang kalakalan, komersyalisasyon sa Pilipinas, mga kasangkapan na ginagamit ng mga kumpanyang transnational upang monopolyo ang pagdadaigdigang pamilihan. Ang gobernasyon ay parang cordon na sumisimbolo ng no escape zone para sa Pilipinas. Ang Pilipinas, dahil sa mataas na inflation rate at ang pagbaba ng halaga nito, nag-import ng maraming mas murang produkto mula sa China. Sa pinapatay ang natira sa ating mga lokal na industriya, ito lang, ang ating mga pamimilihan ay binabahan hindi lamang ng mga produktong Chino, kundi ng ibang mga dayuhang bansa. Sa ilalim ng gayong mga ekonomiyang realidad, tuwing umaga, gumising kami at ginagawa ang araw-araw na gawain. Ang tipikal na almusal ng mga Pinoy ay binubuo ng mga hotdog, bacon, pasteurized cheese, cereal, at mga inumin. Karamihan sa mga ito ay mga dayuhang produkto. Yes, totoo talaga yun. Ang mga Pilipino ay gusto makinig sa mga hip-hop na kanta ng mga ibang rapper at ayaw nilang hindi makasali sa paligabagong pelikulang hit sa Amerika. Of course, sa ngayon lang sa ngayong generation natin, na-influensyahan tayo sa mga ibang bansa like Korea. So, dito sa Pilipinas, nakikita ko na ang ibang mga kabataan is mahilig sila sa mga K-drama, K-pop songs, at hindi lamang dun sa Korea, pati na rin sa yung mga anime, yung sa ibang bansa rin. So, ganyan, na-influensyahan tayo sa ibang bansa. Hindi natin tinatangkit ang sariling atin. Kasi, gusto nila na, malungkot man ang ngunit, totoo ang paggawa ng tao ng ating mga nai-export ngayon. In-export natin ang ating mga kabayan, pamilya at kaibigan, kapit ng dollar, remittances. Of course, nakita natin ngayon ang ibang mga Pilipino ay ng ibang bansa dahil nga mataas yung sahod doon. Tapos dito is tama din naman para sa pamilya pero hindi gaano masustentuhan at binibili nila ng gusto nila na pangarap sa ating mga bayan na palayain ang mga Pilipino mula sa anumang anyo ng dayuhan pang-aalipin. Ngunit ngayon, ang matinding kahirapan ay matutulak sa mga Pilipino na magtrabaho sa mga dayuhan, lupain at palintuna na pagsabihan ng pare-parehong mga dayuhan, Panginoon, na umakapi sa atin noon. Noong panahon ng kolonyal na Espanyol at Amerikano, kontrolado ng dalawang bansa ang Pilipinas sa politika at ekonomiya. Yan yung sabi ko. Yung sinasagal ng mga kasilang lahing Pilipino bilang Indio upang bigyan din ang ating kaugaan. So, yung Indio guys ay yung walang alam. So, tinatawag tayong Indio ng mga Kastila noon dahil para sa kanila is nandito lang tayo sa baba. At pinipili ay ginagawa tayo yung mga alipin noon. Kaya gusto ng mga Amerika bilang tayo sa pinakabagong uri ng sibilisasyon dahil lang sa tayo ay mga Pilipino. Aminin natin o hindi, itong mentalidad na itinuro sa atin ng mga puti yung mga Amerikano, ay parang peklat na tumatak sa ating kabalayan. Sa ngayon, karamihan sa atin ay sumusunod pa rin sa mga pamantay ng kagandahan. Hinatna ng ating mga mga dating mga api. Para sa akin, hindi naman tayo masyadong ginawa ng mga alipin ng mga Amerikano dahil sila din yung nag-influensya sa atin yung mag-aaral. Sa katunayan, tinatangkit ng mga Pilipino magputi upang mabura, kailangan natural na kaywagi na putis at ipaglagay ang kulay na balat ay lang ang Anglo-Saxon American. So, oo, sa ngayong generation natin, no, ginagamit natin yung mga products ng hindi sa atin. Like, yung pampaputi, yung gusto nilang pumuti, ano tawag? Mga products na may halong chemical. Pinapabahay nila sa mga mukha nila at kung saan may gusto nilang pumuti. Dahil hindi nila gusto siguro yung Cotis Pilipina. Kamakailan, kusang loob ni Sarangani Congressman at World Boxing Champ Manny Pacquiao na i-deactivate ang kanyang Twitter account dahil sa mga full na komento ng kritiko na marunong mag-Ingles na tila nakakalimutan na ang Ingles ay hindi natin katutubong wika. May mga bata ngayon na hindi lang naman si Manny Pacquiao gustong dahil hindi natin yung sariling wika, no? Bago masakop ang Kastila ang Amerikano ang Pilipinas, ginagamit ng ating mga ninuno ang alibata at ang kanilang parehong dialekto para makipag-usap sa isa't isa. Ang alibata ay isang sinaunang script ng Pilipino na pinaniniwalaang nagmula sa Agkabi script ng Javanese. No, so yung alibata yung pinaka-first na alphabet. Hindi isang mortal na kasalanan kung si Manny Pacquiao ay gumagawa ng pagkakamali sa English grammar. Kapag naging ina-articulate na siya ng kanyang katutubong wika tulad ng isang tinatawag na konyo, iyon na ang oras para sabihin natin ang go kay Manny. Ang reliyon ay marahil na pinakatanyag na bakas ng kolonyalismo na iniwan ng mga Kastila at ang mga Amerikano. Mula sa animismo, naakit ang mga Pilipino sa doktrinang Kristiyano. Ang Islam ay isang nangingibabaw na reliyon sa Mindanao ay hindi itinatag ng Pilipino kundi ang isang Arabo na inangalang Muhammad. Ang aming mga anito ay pinalitan ng mga estatwa na may katangiang Griego. Ngayon, isang iba't ibang sekta ang Muslim na parang mga kabote upang magturo ng kanilang teolohiya. Kapag tayo ay nanood ng mga pelikula, tinatangkilik natin ang mga pelikulang Hollywood dahil ang ating kolonyal na kultura ang nagkondisyon sa atin na niwala ang mga lokal na production ay mas mababa sa lahat ng aspeto. Ang lahat ng manifestasyon, ito ang kolonyal na kultura at ang mentalidad ay naalala ng ang mga salita ni Renato Constantino na isinulat sa isa sa kanyang mga aklat. Ang mga dahil sa kanila magsulat ng tula tungkol sa taglatas at taglamig at niyaba sa mga puno ng fiya. Ngunit mas mahalaga dahil sa higit na praktikal na halaga ang kanilang panimulang utos sa Ingles ay nagbibigay daan sa mga Pilipino na mag-import ng mga pelikulang Hollywood, makabili ng mga publikasyon Amerikano at magkakonsumo ng unang napakalaking halaga ng mga produktong gawa sa Amerika. Kung saan na-visualize ni Jose Rizal kung nasaan ang mga Pilipino ngayon sa kanyang The Philippines a Century Hence. This then started a new era for the Philippines. So, ang nag-colonize sa atin yung dalawang yung mga Spanish at saka yung mga American. So, that's all for. Have a blessed Friday.
Last is post-colonial Philippines. Refers to the period after the country gained independence from Spanish and American colonial rule. It encompasses the time from 1946 to the present and involves the nation's efforts to establish its identity and development as a sovereign nation. This era has seen significant political, economic, and social change in the Philippines. So, there are many other reasons why the term postcolonialism is problematic. The term postcolonialism redirects global history in terms of the colonized and the colonizer. Even more specifically, the word post creates an Eurocentric view of the world in which all the world cultures are compared to the colonial's power. Number 1, Spanish colonial era. The last 2 decades of Spanish rule in the Philippines created a public sphere dominated by political, administrative, and religious institutions. They also established a modern world market-oriented economy alongside the Spanish galleon trade with Acapulco. The Spanish colonial era, the Manila-Acapulco galleon trade, ended in the 1815, a few years before Mexico gained independence from Spain in 1821. After this, the Spanish crown took direct control on the Philippines and governed directly from Madrid. Number 2 is American colonial era. After American colonization in 1901, the Philippines adopted an American perspective of modernity. This period led to the emergence of the active civil society and influenced by economic development and American education. So what is called colonial era? From the word colonial era, it refers to the time period under which India has an colony of the British. It lasted from 1858 to 1947. Number 3. Separation of classes. The text notes a divide between the elite and the masses living in separate worlds, with a middle class in between. Urban society and characterize a market where money holds significant importance. Separation of classes stratification is a form of social stratification in which a society is separated into parties whose members have different access to resources and power, and economic natural cultures, religions, interests, and ideal usually exist between different classes. 4 is cultural adaptations. So, over the centuries, the diverse people of the Philippines adapt, negotiated, resisted, or surrendered to European and Asian colonizers. The text suggests a need for transcultural process of mutual creative fertilizations. Cultural adaptations. For example, learning greetings of the new cultures, learning language in praise of the new cultures, learning dress codes for the new cultures, and learning how to access goods and service in the new cultures. Number 5, Habermas theory. The text briefly touched upon Habermas' ideas how modernizations involving complex systems and the tensions between the life world and instrumental logic. It also mentions new social movement challenging established systems. So what is the colonial So there are four types of actions by Habermas, which is theological actions with strategic actions as the subset page 77, normatively regulated actions, dramaturgical actions, and communicative actions. So since the Philippines went through a transformative journey as it transitions into modernity shaped by the influence and the demands of the colonial rules. The text underscores the complexity of the historical process and the ongoing impact of Filipino society. That's all our report. Thank you, Ma'am.